Welcome to the NOWT. Once again, it is the NOWT Power Hour, and I have the wonderful Nick Huckson here, my co-host. Pleasure to have you back here, Nick.
Thanks, buddy. It's been a whole week already.
I know. It's kind of hard to believe. It really is. And
unbelievable.
Last week, if you didn't join us, by all means, you're able to go back on the Canadian Fishing Network YouTube channel, or, of course, you can scroll down on our Facebook timeline. But it was an honor, Nick, to have the elite, the winners of the NOWT championship last year, Kevin Robinall, of course, and Steve Gravel. It was a highlight for me to have those two with us last week, and what a discussion it was.
Yeah, like those guys let out a lot of secrets that you squeezed it out of them somehow, and I'm glad you did. We had Jason on here as well. It was definitely a week of legends there, and now they just got us.
So you had the last year's champion in Kevin and Steve, and then of course the angler of the year, which was your partner Jason Doyen. And I tell you, I will say no one was more humbled at the end of that event than I think Jay. And the fact was he didn't win the championship, but that angler of the year is a prestigious award.
Oh, and the thing is, I know, I fished with him since 2015. We've done multiple events, multiple series all over we've been all the way out to North Dakota, fishing tournaments down in Minnesota, all over Canada, the United States with him. And I mean, the man fishes with his heart on his sleeve. So having him win that trophy last year and winning the title angler of the year, you can tell how much that meant to him. So we're sorry for being in my car again. I threw a poster up on the back, the new Livingston Lures banner, but I'm on my way to Terrace Bay for my next show. I got a dealer day, and it's the grand opening to fishing sale for the Terrace Bay Home Hardware. They're going to be the biggest trolling selection in the North Shore Lake Superior. It's incredible on what they're packing in that home hardware. It's going to be unbelievable. I'll be doing some lives there on the weekend. I'll be Friday and Saturday. It's a grand opening to fishing. So if anyone's down in the Terrace Bay, Thunder Bay area, come in and stop in. It's going to be wild. It's some brand new lures that have never been seen in Canada. They brought in trolling if you're a trolling head and a trolling nut, if you're cruising through down across from Sault Ste. Marie to Thunder Bay, pull in for a little pit stop and go see Adam McGrath at Home Hardware. You won't be disappointed. I can guarantee it.
Wow. That's, it's exciting stuff. It's like the Canadian version of ICAST. I love these new introductions. Of course, the Pocketbook doesn't. And of course the one next door, who I have to, mention, why did I spend so much money on all this tackle? But I love seeing the new stuff that comes out, because in a lot of cases it's angler driven. And I know you've had a huge hand in some of the designs of some of the products that you use on a regular basis when you're out fishing.
Yeah, this opportunity that I have with GFW Distributions has been nothing but amazing. Livingston Lures here, you can see the banner in the background. That's my personal best walleye I caught on a lure that I'm helping design. Caught it on a TV show. Will be featured on Roadfish TV somewhere between September and December on Wild TV and the Sportsman Network. But having designed baits for NXS, we got a little tidbit. We're coming out with a tournament series rod by NXS here. We're in the prototype stages, so that's something I'm not supposed to be telling to anyone. So I'm probably going to get ridiculed later, but we'll let a little secret slip tonight. And
Don't worry, no one's
the buckboards. Yeah, exactly. The
We're
bump
all,
boards that we designed for the NOWT, that's something that we were able to bring in, something that was much needed in the tournament scene, as well as like some of our new baits, the colors. There's going to be some new colors of the Death Shad, the Dancing Death Shad, that are going to be available. I think actually they're going to be released today or next week. So like it's nothing but amazing. It's the baits that I'm using, and guys are helping me, like Eric Arnoldson from Livingston's brought me on board to help with them. You got Eric Simard, the owner of GFW and NXS, helping me. I'm helping them design baits, and it's my dream job. I can't, I'm so happy I'm not on the tools spinning pipe wrenches anymore.
yeah, dude, I envy you. And I will say this: we are going to get to know all about you momentarily. First, we want to say, when it comes to trolling, we have some folks in our audience that have commented already that love their trolling. Jim Fowler, nice to see you tonight again. Richard loves his trolling when he's up at Horwood. It's literally all he does, and he's extremely successful. Mike, nice to see you as well. Adrian also is a great troller and makes some incredible worm harnesses, wire worm harnesses, to be more specific. But and then there's Ed McKenzie as well. On that note, before we get to know all about Nick Huckson, let's find out a little more about GFW Distributions. So there it is, Nick. And tell us a little bit more about GFW and some of the stuff that's available through them, because I'm sure there's a lot of folks in our audience that have never heard of GFW Distribute, and I'd like to know a little bit more myself.
Yeah, so GFW Distributions is a Canadian distribution company. We're based out of Quebec. We sell. We don't sell direct to the public, but we do sell to all your any storefront, any brick and mortar shop. We don't deal with online tackle shops. We don't deal with like online stores. We're really we started out as the mom and pop shop of the distributing world, and we've grown to be a big contender dealing with some of the biggest names in the fishing tackle industry. But our roots and our core goes right back to brick and mortar, mom and pop. That's where we started. We've built the reputation and built an empire up one rod at a time, if you know what I mean. So knowing where we came from and never forgetting that front is why we're so successful with your smaller shops, dealing all through the north. My territory is actually all of Ontario, so I have so many great dealers that I wouldn't even be able to get into the list, all the way down from Ottawa right to Kenora. So it's Kenora, Sioux Lookout. So it's been a lot of traveling. Like, I'm in my car again. We're heading up to Terrace Bay, pull over to do the live here, and just to stop and chat with my friend, and we'll hopefully get some tournament secrets out and get some people more get them a little bit more confident in fishing tournaments. And that's my overall goal when we're doing this, is really recruiting that next generation to come out and building it up. I started there in a 16-foot boat. I started my first tournament. A boat I built with my dad in the garage. We had a 16-foot tin can with 4 bench seats in it. It had a 35 horse Johnson on it. I cut the seats out of it. I reinforced it, built a rod locker on the side, a little tackle storage, casting platform, put a bow mount trolling motor on it. And my grandfather, he actually helped me. He bent a bunch of tin up, soldered the joints, and actually soldered it. I didn't even think you could solder tin. Soldered the joints up. We put a latch on it. We went out and fished the Magpie River, the Duberville Father's Day Walleye tournament, and that's where the championship for the NOWT is this year. I fished it with my dad. I finished 7th place in my first tournament, and that was the worst thing that could have ever happened to me.
Yes. Well, depends on where you're sitting. From where I'm sitting, Nick, it's probably the best thing that could have happened. Because the one thing I will say, before we get to know you from the time you we're knee high to a grasshopper till now. One thing I can honestly say, you and I clicked because I could feel your passion. And the one thing that I truly love about your approach, which is similar to mine, is it's about engaging other people. It's about getting other people involved. And you speak about the next generation of anglers. I can't say enough about that and how important it is to our industry, to our fishery, to water. And I know Lawrence Gunther and I talk about it all the time on live. We need kids to understand the importance of clean water. After that, I think we can start worrying about, how healthy our fish populations are and everything else that goes along with it. But getting those next generation of anglers and Canadians involved in their fisheries so that they understand the importance of what's going on is so crucial. And I know that is engraved in you, and it was done so at a young age with your father. So tip of the hat to the old man for taking you out and getting you involved in what I think is one of the greatest sports available to all of mankind.
Oh, there's nothing better than it. If I didn't get into the fishing and hunting and tournament scene and whatever, I don't know where my life would be today. I don't know if I would have fallen in that same path that I've seen so many of my friends go down and, get out. I was so passionate and so eager to learn about fishing. It saved my life as a sense to, because I had so many friends that I hung out with from elementary school into high school that, a lot of them actually aren't with us anymore. I have quite a few friends that aren't with us. And I was in that scene. I never got past that from high school. But a lot of my friends got into the drug scene and they got into, hanging out with bad people. But I never got past hanging out with them from school because my dad had me up at camp and we had, I was up at camp every week and I was too busy to go to parties and I was too busy to do this. And that really that key area when I was younger, and that time that influenced me the most when you're on that teetering point of going down what road you're going down, and parenting and having my parents bring me into the bush and teach me about the values and the of what it is. I've learned patience, I've learned work ethic, I've learned everything through fishing and hunting. It's as silly as that sounds, like a lot of people know I've been a plumber for a long time. I actually dropped out of high school when I was 15 years old. And I pursued a trade, and I've been a licensed plumber for, I think 12 years, 13, 14 years. I've had 18 years experience in the plumbing industry, which is, more than most people when they, they're getting up there in age at 50 years old. I have more experience at 33 now than I did. I started working with my dad when I was 12 years old. And, and then I brought that same energy and same work ethic that I have from the plumbing industry. And that's being a kid in an industry of men it really made you grow up quick. So taking that same energy and that same work ethic that I had then and bring it into the fishing industry now. I mean, it's that's why there's so many doors that are opening now. And I mean, it's again that this is going back to learning my abilities to fish and understanding and making me learn patience and so it's so important. Like I know yourself, what are the kids tournaments that you're running, Scottie?
So it's actually interesting. I spoke at great length to a number of people and sponsors and what have you, and it's really come together. And it's next gen. It's from Friends Outreach Canada. I hooked up with a good buddy of mine, Stanley Joshua Singh, who's been doing this with Catch a Dream and various other kids, but he's been sticking with next gen, and it has been a focus of his for I don't know how many years, to be honest, but it's over a decade that he has been providing these events to kids that I want to say you best described situations that you just shared with us, and big brothers, big sisters, the municipalities of Durham, Region of Peel. We source these kids from those services, those agencies, and we provide them a day where they have nothing but fishing, fun, and a belly full of food. And that may not seem like a lot, but kids that are in the situation that they're in, I don't even want to think about what happens after they leave these events. And it's not all the kids, but some of those kids, they've had a hard upbringing. It's not been easy. Some may not know who their fathers and mothers are. Maybe it's their grandparents, but our next gen events, I think are for me anyway, are the highlight, not only for the kids, but for myself as well, because you get to see what fishing, being in the outdoors, and just exposing kids to fun, what that turns into. And the biggest takeaway, Nick, for me last year was watching the older kids that have been with us sort of from day one. They've now grown up and they're now starting to mentor the young kids. So
That's
that was a
amazing.
moment where we just sort of stepped back and went, whoa, like we're onto something here. So I
That's
appreciate that.
goosebumpy.
Yeah.
That's a goosebump story. Like I got chills there from that. Like it's you mentioned it perfectly. Even now, I spend hundreds of days on the water a year. I'm sure you spend great amount of time on the water as well, and it's still that same how would you put it? When you're having a bad day and you jump in the boat and you go on the water, everything stops. It doesn't matter what problems happened 10 minutes ago, 2 days ago, 5 minutes ago. It's a race. That time stops and you're at peace no matter what. That's why I fish. That's why I've fallen in love with this sport and this industry. And same thing with hunting in my mind. I'm worried about, you know, what are the fish doing? What are this doing? And I forget about my life's problems. And, you know, and you realize how small some of the problems that you actually are facing are. And it gives that moment of kind of solitary moment of peace there that you have. So
Dude,
how does one get involved with these, Scotty, like to help out as like a volunteer?
Well, basically, we will be getting in touch with them. So I know you and Danny had volunteered to help out, and dude, can't thank you enough for that because it is a bit of a trek for the Perrier. But basically, we have a group of volunteers that we're lucky to say that come out every year. We're always looking for new volunteers. You can reach out to me, or you can reach out to Stanley. We are doing a raffle right now to help generate some money because we do want, Nick, we want to open this up to the public because I think one of the biggest complaints, if you will, is that every time we're at a show and we're doing our thing, like you see us, everybody's like, oh, I'd love to bring my kid to one of these. I'd love to bring my kid to one of these. And it's like, how do you say no to a kid? But these kids are the kids that are invited to our events are at-risk kids. They don't have a lot in their life. And we would like to eventually open up to the public. So that's why we're doing fundraising. That's why we're reaching out and thinking outside the box when it comes to sponsors. Because listen, the fishing industry, it's a well that so many people have gone to, and our industry is so generous that I don't feel comfortable asking for any more. So I want to think outside the box and go to companies, agencies, or just people in general that have a little bit of money that love to see a program like this grow. Because as you just mentioned, look how it changed your life. Look how it changed mine. Nick, we would never have met had it not had anything to do with fishing. So
yep, it's amazing. And every kid should be able to experience that. It bothers me and it upsets me every time that I see that the kid can't do that. Or when you're talking to someone, even an adult, like I've never been fishing. It's like I don't even have the mental capacity to understand how no one has experienced this. How we live in Canada,
yep,
where we have the most fresh water surrounding us anywhere. And you know, people are saying that they've never been fishing, they've never caught a fish. It's you know, you just want to hug them and tell them about it. It's you know, it's such an amazing thing. Like I said in the last live now, I mean, it's I have more thrill on the handle of a net than I do actually reeling in my own fish, because I get to see the smiles on every single person's face that pulls a fish into my boat. So it's you know, except Jason, I like catching more fish than him.
I will say it's what I share with Steve Shaw and Walter. These two, they're gems, and the edits and what they do to help promote our community is right on line with what you're saying. And buddy, I mirror everything that you're mentioning tonight at great length. You talked about next gen. Of course, the other thing that you mentioned was the mental health that is provided to folks that just get outdoors, fishing, what have you. But that experience that you talk about, it's like pushing the reset button. Everything stops. On Monday, we're going to be talking to a highly decorated, I want to say social worker, but she's way more than that because she's lived it. Like you, Nick, like us, you know, we've lived fishing. We understand what it does for our mental health. What we now have is someone that has the degree and the schooling behind them to identify and share with us, explain to us what it is that gives us that reset when we get to the outdoors. So Monday, we're going to be talking to Haley Patry. I can't wait because she's going to be offering a direction that we've never been able to offer through CFN, and that is providing folks someone to talk to, someone to open up to, someone to explain, maybe there's something that's going on in your life. I know I digress, but I can't talk enough about this Haley person. She is a remarkable human being. Never mind what she's done for a whole bunch of people, just the crap that she's been through. She's a remarkable human being, and she's turning at 180, like we just discussed. Now it's time to teach others and inform others and expose others to great things that are positive and that are great at building mental health.
And see, touching back on like what you said about, getting like into the fishing industry and, where I am and developing stuff. It's not even, that stuff's all cool. It's material. It's materialistic stuff. That's really cool. Like designing baits, designing bump boards, designing colors and schemes and everything, but meeting the people inside the industry that help it tick and make it revolve and continue to see what drives the fishing industry from behind the scenes, from behind the banner, all the banner. Like we have the beautiful Northern Ontario Walleye Trail banner up here, but a lot of people don't see what's behind this banner, behind your banner. It's and seeing the inners of what actually like Haley. Did you say it was Haley?
Haley, yep.
Yeah, so like Haley and yourself and Stan. Like Stan's one of the greatest human beings I've ever met. He's that guy is what he does for the fishing industry is incredible. And there's so many people that I've had the pleasure to meet in the last year. I cannot believe it. And it's like in the construction industry, I got a lot of friends, and I have friends that I'll never forget. I'll have guys that are going to be with me till the day I die. But there seems like you're in construction as well. There's few and far. It's like you meet one person here, one person there. In the fishing industry, you walk in and like yourself, walk in. First thing you do is give me a bear hug. I don't know you from a hole in the ground, and it's like, all right, man. I'm a hugger too, so let's continue with this friendship. So it's seeing that is the cool part. But
100%, Nick. I couldn't agree more. And while we're at it, let's take a moment and thank those who are the sponsors of the NOWT and help make this tick. Mercury Outboards, set the water on fire. Prince Craft Boats, celebrating 70 years of boating. J&B Superstore, your adventure awaits. Rackspin, making the outdoors more fun. Eastview Chevrolet to get you there. And Garmin to get you home. And of course, all these generous sponsors. So just recently, Nick, you were voted in as Angler at Large by the NOWT and your peers.
Absolutely.
Congratulations, and quite an accomplishment on that, Nick. I'm not the least bit surprised. That is the now. Let's talk about the before, which was, of course, as you said, your first tournament was Duberville with your dad. You were 7, you said?
No. There's we come 7th place. I started tournament fishing in 2012, I do believe.
Okay.
It's quite a few years ago. I fished and it could have been even earlier than that. But I started, my early 20s. We built my boat in my parents' garage. I was still living at home. I bought this boat. My grandfather helped me pay for it. It's $3,000. It was so much money, right? Back then. And we built it. We spent the entire winter building a tournament boat. It was a 16-foot Sylvan Sea Snapper, and it had a 35 horse Johnson on it. We put bilge pumps in, we put carpet, we built floors, we built, right from cut it all out. It was a shell, and completely reassembled it. I still have the boat today. Yeah, I still got it today. It's seen some weather. I got to rebuild the floor. It's going in my garage. I got my cabinets from my camp, but as soon as they're out, I'm putting it in. We're going to rebuild it and get back into where our roots started. So it's kind of cool to see how I've progressed in the industry, going from fishing out of a tin can to, fishing out of a true tournament rig now, and placing, made the championship the last 3 years. And I'm hoping to do it again next year. We've come close a few times. I think we come third in the first ever NOWT championship. We come second last year. So I'm hoping it gets better. But I can't complain about where we've come and what we've done so far in the industry. I mean, it makes me smile. It makes my heart smile. I don't fish against anglers. I fish against friends. I fish against myself. It's something that I do just for the passion of the fishing. It's nice to win a paycheck, but at the end of the day, to meet new friends, to see your old friends and have something in common with everyone. That's what it's all is. But battling against the elements, battling against the fish, figuring out bait fish, figuring out foods, like all your food sources, figuring out currents and neck downs and break lines and transitions, and it's just it's the game of chess almost. It's it's, and you hope you never get checkmated against, and you always do. But there's a few times that you win that game, and I mean there's nothing more special than winning that game of chess with the walleyes.
Well, I'll tell you, I tip my hat to all you tournament anglers, no matter what species it is that you target. That level of competition and the buy-in that you have to have as an angler to be dedicated to winning is something that is hard to explain. You're going to do your best tonight, as well as sharing a whole bunch of tips, tricks, and techniques. But first and foremost, let's get to your career in 2012. That's when you joined the NOWT, correct?
Correct.
And you were in the Sylvan at that time?
Yeah, I was in the Sea Snapper, I think, till I fished out of that for 4 years. I fished the Sault Ste. Marie event actually out of it, and everyone that was concerned about it being big water back then, they had the Sioux tournament ran for 3 years before, but it wasn't really successful before because there was a very big gap from the guys that did it from before to the young guys. I was one of the youngest guys on tour, and I was one of the only ones with a boat. There was only me and I think Kevin Koparach was one of the other young guys that fished it. Mark Lytham had a small boat too. Like I ran down to St. Joe's Island. It's like back then I thought it was forever. We had two 5-gallon gas cans in the back, and we had ran all the way down, and we ended up getting, I think, a second big fish of the weekend or something. The one day we had a got a bunch of shorts, just not really confident on my home body of water back then, and just pretty new to tournament fishing, right? You're trying to break things down and overcomplicate things, and that was my biggest mistake. And those were the cool steps when I was fishing with my cousin, and I overcomplicated a few things, and it's like you learn from all those mistakes, and you learn so much faster when it comes into like a tournament situation. But I fished out of that boat for I think 3 years, and then I bought we bought an 18 footer, and then I fished out of that for a year, and then I actually was approached by Jason Doyen. He was looking for a co-angler for the National Walleye Tour. So not anyone that isn't familiar with like what the National Walleye Tour is. It's a tournament circuit out of the States, and it's a pro-am event. So you fish with a new boater each day. So even though I was Jason's co-angler, I never fished with Jason in the tournament. My name goes in a hat, and a pro draws my name one day, and then I get another pro the next day, and that's I ended up finishing 10th place for Angler of the Year. I got to fish with some amazing people. Mark Quartz, I fished with day 2. I finished 4th place in the Mississippi River. I fished with Mark Quartz. He won Angler of the Year that year. That was super cool because he come out and shook my hand after in Devil's Lake at the championship at the end, the last season, or the last tournament of the season. And when he won Angler of the Year, he was having a bad day. We sat down and we just started spanking him. It was one of the coolest days I had on the water, and having a pro like that just see how they work and how they operate. I fished with Keith Cavayas down in Leech Lake. I fished with Chris Gilman, Joe Carter, Ryan Wall, some truly elite level guys, and then met guys like Ed Stahusky and Wayne Van Dyke, and these guys that I still talk to today. Ed actually just called me 20 minutes ago before the live here. I was in a board meeting with the NOWT, but still have the connections from 2015 with these pros. Ed won the Lucas Oil Angler of the Year on the National Walleye Tour, so seeing what these guys do and being able to talk to them, and for anyone that's looking to evolve in the angler, it changes everything. Everything that you know as a walleye angler, you pretty much take it and throw it out the window. It simplifies a lot of stuff and overcomplicates others. And it really, that was my turning point in my career. Seeing, like, I was a jig and a live bait kind of guy, seeing these guys throw artificials and throwing swim baits and like marabou. Like, I was like, who throws marabou for walleyes? That's a trout thing, right? Like, thinking, like, you buy that in a kids combo at Walmart, and seeing guys catching fish on them, I'm like, okay, that interesting. And then as the season went on, it's I started changing, like throwing glass Chad wraps up on road beds with Chris Gilman, and ripping jigging wraps and stuff like I've never done before, right? And then it really opened my eyes, and I took that same technology and the same techniques that I had there and brought it to the NOWT. Like, we won Geraldton I think in 2018, we won Geraldton with jigging wraps. It was arguably one of the first, and I could be wrong, but to the best of my knowledge, one of the first NOWT events to ever be won on artificial only. We caught all of our keepers. We figured this out kind of on the fly. We got blown up, and we pitched out jigging wraps, and the wind was so strong we couldn't cast them. We were actually trolling jigging wraps and ripping them incredibly hard as you can go at 2 miles an hour with the wind going, just ripping as fast. Like, there was probably 30-40 km/h winds, and we ended up 37th after day one, and we ended up winning by 4.5 pounds day two, and there were some big bags come in too.
Jeez, man, you just explained what I would say probably either with a jig and a swim bait, plastic swim bait, or a jigging wrap. One of my favorite techniques when you're in the back of the boat, you've got guests up front. My screen was at the helm on the driver's side, and that was one of the things I loved doing is just allowing the wind to take you. A good blow, good drift, and when you're going over those humps in that structure, jigging that wrap just off the back, you just pointed out how productive it is. I think it's interesting too that you mentioned it was one of the first tournament wins that was strictly used by a team that used artificial. A lot of folks down this way, and maybe elsewhere too, I'm not really sure, because there's some provinces that don't even allow the use of live bait. It's interesting, and also something you have to come to grips with when you do go north. Live bait is a huge part of your repertoire.
Absolutely. That's all I knew how to fish with before was live bait. And I mean, I was very successful at it. I did very well with live bait. But there's my opinion, and everyone knows that fishes against me. They'll see me, when it comes down clutch time, and I'm that crutch in the boat when it, sometimes it's we don't have that kicker fish, or we're looking for one big bite at the end of the day, or I'll stand on that bow of that boat and I will cast a swim bait, or I'll cast a fluke, or I'll cast something that's artificial. And I don't know how many times that we've come into crunch time in a tournament, and all of a sudden we get that big bite at the end of the day. And I'm going to say 85% of the time it's on the artificial, that big swim bait, slow, ripping it in and then slow rolling it back to the boat. We were in Duberville the one time, and I think we finished third in that event. But we pitched out third or fourth. We had great unders. We had one decent over, and right at the end of the day I was casting out, and I was a white swim bait, pitch out, work it in. I felt a tick on the way in, I missed it, and then I just started getting over the deep water, and I just slow rolled it in, and all of a sudden I see this walleye that came up right at the side of the boat, ripped off the back tail of my swim bait. I'm like, ugh. So I had another rod on the bow. I grabbed it, I just pitched it out 10 feet. It hit bottom, and thunk. You see the line hop on my high vis line and crank down. It was an 8-pound walleye. It's one of those confidence baits for me that, like picking up artificial, and you can throw it so many more times. You never have to worry about if it's tangled up on your hook, or if your jig, your minnow fell off on the cast, or you get that tick that I had, that tick, did it pull my bait off? Generally you just reel it in, right? So I don't know how many times you miss a bite and then set the hook and crank down, pick up that slack, and all of a sudden, boom, it bites again, right? Where live bait, you don't have that option. So it's the confidence. It's a confidence thing, and I mean, you fish your confidence levels. It's going to help you in turn be more successful on the water. And anyone that's like, if anyone out there is listening that is, trying, I talk to so many people, and I'm really like, if you have any questions, reach out to me, personal message me on Facebook, Instagram, whatever. I don't have a lot of secrets. I'm not going to give you my top of the line. Here's my waypoints where we win tournaments, or this is where what we're doing when we're practicing. But generally afterwards, I don't care. It's if you can come out and beat me at my own game and do it, I'll be the first one up on stage to shake your hand. And Scottie's attested that so many times. But I'm the first one there to shake your hand. I'm the best loser on the NOWT, as I tell everyone.
You honestly are, and as you said, I've seen that firsthand. I think one of the best ways to dive into this tips, tricks, and techniques segment of your interview and of this show is to start based on what a typical season looks for you. Obviously, being up in the North Country, the walleye season opens up a little bit later for you folks. But when it comes to your approach, and this might not necessarily be tournament driven, but this year it starts at MFN, so we're up on Matagami. Then we're in Duberville, but based on your seasons and not necessarily the tournaments. At the beginning of your season up that way, is it a live bait bite?
So if you see me in a tournament, I'm never not going to have live bait in my boat. That's as long as it's legally able to on a body of water, I'm going to have it in my boat. That's now I'll do absolutely everything in my power not to touch a minnow all day. And Jason curses me so many times for that in practice because I will not pick up a minnow. And it's or a leech or a crawler. It's just I do everything in my power to I'll pitch a jerk bait, or I'll like running Pro Ripper, Livingston Pro Rippers, like the lipless crankbaits, or swim baits, like there's always a 4-inch swim bait tied, 3 to 4 inch swim bait tied on my boat on the bow at any given time of the year. It doesn't matter if it's September or it's May, like May long weekend. There's a 3 to 4 inch swim bait. Actually, the reason I have this job is because of the 4-inch desh shads, the dancing desh shads, and the desh shads is why I have this job. I actually contacted the owner of GFW, said, "Hey, how do I get these?" He come to the Sioux, we met up, he offered me a job. I said, absolutely not. And then I realized that plumbing kind of sucks a little bit. So I called him back and said, see if that job offer was still on the table. And here we are selling tackle now. But, a lot of people ask me, like, the NXS stuff, is it that good? I'm like, well, I mean, and that's right, 100% true, that the reason I have this job is because of NXS. I was fishing it. I was using it before I ever, like, a year before I ever thought of being a sales rep or ever approached. So, but those baits are the perfect profile of something that I'll have on. A small bait, like a small profile, is, in my opinion, my confidence bait, like a small swim bait. I used to use the Cabela's Walleye Anglers, was one of my favorite swim baits. And then now that I found the desh shad, the dancing desh shad, that became my favorite very quickly. And what it is you're able to throw it out in any condition, whether it's the spring of the year when the bait fish are small. It matches that forage perfectly. Your juvenile perch, your small, your any of your spot tails and stuff like that spawning on the banks. So going back to how my season starts, a lot of times my first thing is I'll try and find some warm water. After the spawn, when I'm not looking at current, I'll try and look at something where the fish have kind of moved off the spawn. They're done, but they're probably close by. I'll look for something close by, something warm water, or if it's really cold water, there's no warm water access, deep waters, Lake Huron, let's just make it simplified and say inland. I'll look for warm water inlets like back bays. I'll look for fishing off that, essentially that first break. Anywhere from a foot of water right to 8 feet of water is generally where I'll start. There's exceptions to everything, but that's generally my first point. When I pull up to a body of water, that's where I'm heading on. Water temperatures from anywhere from 50 degrees right up to 65 degrees. Your optimal temperature for a walleye is 65 degrees in their feeding habits. That's where they want to sit if they have a choice. But they're always going to go to the bait first, right? Big guys like us, Scottie, we're not too far from food, right? So
yeah, unfortunately, yeah, that is my problem. Glad that I share that problem with others. Um,
Yeah, well, I'm right there with you, man. It's but you gotta look at walleyes the same thing. Their main goal is to spawn once a year and to feed and prepare for the spawn for the next year. So the having that food source available, like they're going to be recovering in the recovery stage. So admitting the least amount of energy and having their metabolisms working faster in the shallow waters is really crucial to the to be able to put that winter or putting that, sorry, not the winter weight, but putting the weight back on after they've endured so much stress and so much energy trying to spawn, and a lot of times in rivers and in current and rock, exhausting for a fish. So having the ability to for them to be laying in shallow, watching these bait fish come in shallow is really important. So that's where I start. And as these seasons move on, I'll go into say rolling into like 65 to 75 degree water temperatures. I'll start looking off that secondary drop, and that's where I'm going to look up like extended rock points, mid lake structures. Like we're talking like late late spring, early summer. I'll start looking a little bit offshore weeds, Geraldton, for instance, like any kind of offshore structure. It's shallow, weeds are incredible. So those fish are starting to slide out of that the warmer waters kind of everywhere. The bait fish are starting to move out. The spot tails are done spawning. The common shiners, a lot of in this area. They're starting to move out as well off the weed and off the shallows. So they're found more, and then I'll start looking for suspended fish at times. And as we move out to summertime, that's when I'm going to go like big structure, and that's when I find the hardest to catch walleyes. Like it's the hardest but the easiest. I don't know if you've
yeah,
experienced that too,
yeah, I know
because they're
exactly.
everywhere. In that time period, you can have a walleye in a foot of water, and you can have one in 45 feet of water, and suspended everywhere through. So they really to try and find them. That's when I'll focus on bait. I'm gonna look to see what the biggest forage is in the lake. If it's herring, if it's smelt, if it's perch, whitefish, and I'll start following that around, looking for choke down points, looking for any kind of bottlenecks, choke downs, transitions from rock to mud. That's huge and important because that's where your bugs go. And when you get bug hatches and you get bug hatches and you're going to have your bigger bait fish, such as like your perch, your whitefish, your herring, that sort of stuff relating to that. So, that 20 to 30 feet of water, but also they'll be up shallow as well, and a lot of suspended fish. So that's and then throughout the season, when you get like later in the year, for instance, like this fish behind me, we got trolling a suspended Livingston lure. It was 13-pound walleye. I was marking these fish on plane, running at 40 miles an hour over an area where the herring spawn, or like the herring were staging to spawn. There was 45 feet of water. There was a 25-foot mud flat that come up, mud rock transition, and they were just off the side of it. So we pulled boards through it, and first pass we got a 13-pounder and a couple of 4-pounders as well. I think we got a triple header, and one was 13 pounds. So
wow, what a fish of a lifetime.
yeah.
Bill is asking, does 65 work from north to south on average? I would say in this province, maybe not so much in the bigger water. It might be a little bit different in the bigger water, but the inland lakes, would you say 65 is the target temperature?
Yes and no. Like it's 65 is just their optimal temperature where they would like to sit. But I mean, the most important thing is I'm gonna be have my air conditioner at 60 degrees if I have a cheeseburger that comes out in front of me every day, right? Like it's so it all depends on like bait, but it's just a rule of thumb. That's their most comfortable area. And like if you do find them on like a shoreline and stuff, a lot of times that water temperature is a little bit colder. If you have a 70 degree 72 73 degree water temperature, they might be down 10 feet, and it's probably in that high to mid 60s. But that being said, I've also found fish in 6 feet of water and 83 degree water temperature, and like we were banging off 10 plus pounders. Like it was the best fishing I've ever had in my entire life. It was 83 degrees, sorry, 83 degrees. We were in anywhere from 5 to 8 feet of water, and like they were all in there. There was a stilt line that come through, and like it was incredible on the quality of fish. But what it was is there was all those spot tails and all those common shiners were spawning, and they're on every piece of structure. You would see balls of bait just rolling through. And we actually see that what caught my eye there was actually seeing a walleye crest the surface. I seen the dorsal fin of a giant walleye come out of the water. I'm like, as we were cruising through the area, I wasn't even going to stop and fish it. The water temperature was too warm. It was in the mouth of a creek that came out, and it was incredible, the amount of big fish that were there.
Now, most of the water you fish up in the north is tannic, right? It's stained water.
Well, in the NOWT, yeah, it's there. There's a lot of it. 99% of it is if not 100% of it's tannic water. And like Matagami is probably the clearest. I haven't fished Hearst yet, but I'm assuming it's the same thing. The Cap River's chocolate, like it's got a lot of, it's tannicky but muddy as well. So yeah, to answer that, but I do a lot of fishing actually in Lake Superior for walleyes. So I in the St. Mary's River. Actually, that being said, the St. Mary's on the event this year too, and we got visibility down like the St. Mary's got a little bit of an alkaline color, so it's a little bit more of like that seafoam green. So it's not 100% clear. The further up you go, closer to Lake Superior, it gets clearer, but you're 6 to 8 feet of water visibility. But up north, yeah, 90% of them. 90% of the events on the tour are tannic.
So now during the season, and does it change at all based on water temperature or whatever's hatching at that time when it comes to color choices with your baits? Are you more of a natural guy? Do you like shades? Do you like bright colors? What's your go-to color?
So my go-to color is your favorite. That's my best advice when it comes to fishing. I've caught more big walleyes on pink and chartreuse than and then looking at the back of the boat or the front of the boat at the time, Jason's throwing natural because that's where his confidence level is. He throws whites and very natural colors, and I throw absurd bright colors a lot of times. But I'll switch it up. I think your number one biggest key to fishing for walleyes is profile over color and cadence over anything. Like having that proper cadence. And what a cadence is, for anyone that doesn't know, is that motion of the jig back and ripping on different. Sometimes they want it a slow rise and drop. Other times they want it cracking as hard as you can and let it fall on slack line, so it snaps off bottom and just straight down.
Yep. It's so true too. And I think one of the most important things as an angler that you can probably agree with is being mindful of the cadence that you're setting. It's not necessarily just casting out a bait and retrieving it. It's doing it differently until you find that cadence that works. And it's so important to make sure that your conscious of or at least making sure you're aware of the cadence that you're retrieving your baits. Pink, I have to agree, to one of my go-tos. I love pink. Now that's early in the year. You're pitching shallow. We get into the early part of summer. A lot of these fish are moving perhaps maybe into deeper water. They're now starting to hold the structure. They're in back eddies and in rivers. Are you starting to throw crankbaits at that time, or what's your go-to sort of early summer?
So early summer, like that's in between that jigging wrap stage, or like jigging wrap's always going to be tied on to. Like I'm going to always have like some sort of glide bait in my boat, whether it's a shiver minnow, a puppet minnow, a jigging wrap. I mean, there's always going to be some sort of jig, like some sort of glide bait in my boat readily available. But I'll pick these up and I'll try them, see it. But a lot of times you can't get those fish to react because it's such a fast falling bait. Like you'll get short bit and you pitch through a bunch of fish. So if I can't get them to go on that, what I'll do is I like a fluke style bait, something with so the fluke style bait with the split tail, something that falls faster. Like a paddle tail takes a lot longer fall rate, because it's got something resistance wiggling itself down, where a split tail minnow, like the NXS Dash Ads or the Gladiator minnows, something really sleek profile, and you're able to snap it and kind of work that little bit deeper water with like a 3/8 ounce jig. That's always a good one for me. And then also the drop shot, like that's been that's been one of those things that has been come up in conversation time after time, and that's probably the winningest bait right now is a drop shot, because you're able to, with forward facing sonar, you're able to put the bait right on top of these fish and able to hold it there while those fish key in on it. I mean, it's not the he all be all, but it's something else that you should have tied up in your boat at all times, especially when those fish start moving offshore. When they're onshore, nothing really beats a jig in a plastic or a jig in a minnow or something like that. But once they start moving off to that secondary structure, when you can start seeing them in that 12 to 20 feet of water, it's something that you can pitch at them. And even if you can't see them, it's a one of those, like, you can pitch out. If you don't have forward facing sonar, you're able to do that. And another thing that, it's kind of moved out of that tournament language and the talk there, but the having that the Lindy rigs, like, we've won many tournaments on live bait rigging for walleyes, dragging around a plain hook and a crawler or a leech or a minnow or something like that. So having that technique and dragging them off that outside break lines, long lining out the back with like 10-pound mono, something that has a lot of stretch to it. You get away with that, like, you feel that bite, kind of drop it back. You don't get, so that's another really one that people are starting to go away from. But there's never a time in my boat that I don't have a Lindy rig rod in there ready to rock. I personally, I've gone away from pulling a lot of spinners and bottom bouncers. I'm more of a rod in hand casting. That's how I like to fish. I find that anytime that I can pick up a pitching stick and have the ability to cast at fish and the ability to work a shoreline, that's when my percentage goes up. That's when I feel like I'm putting the odds in my favor, as opposed to letting luck roll here. So
no, it worked. And you know what? And I'm so taken back by you mentioning the Lindy rig, because that's literally how I learned how to fish for walleye, was the Lindy rig. And then I got introduced to the drop shot, and I have to admit, I was never using the drop shot correctly, because I was using it like a 3-way rig. And I love that ticking the bottom. I love, having a half decent weight ticking bottom, finding those crevices in the rock, especially in August when we're up at Horwood. You're in deeper water, and you find those crevices. And I know Bill Mafterock, who is a longtime NOWT angler, he said, Scottie, up north, that's where those walleyes sit. They'll sit in those crevices. If you all of a sudden find that you're ticking bottom and it drops into a hole, make a point. Create a waymark. If you're on structure and you're finding a crevice, guaranteed you're going to hit walleye. And I have to say, Bill was bang on.
absolutely.
You find the same up north in a lot of those rock-tilled glacier Canadian Shield type lakes.
It's anywhere, Scott. Like, you can go down to Devil's Lake, North Dakota, and you find a roadbed with a washout on it. Like, I don't know if anyone knows Devil's Lake. It's essentially a sunken farm town that's underwater. It was the coolest place I've ever fished. But like, you're driving across like 30 feet of water, marking bottom, and all of a sudden you see the graph, and it just goes across, and it's like boom, boom, comes up and then drops back down. They call it the Golden Highway. It's sunk under 20 feet of water. But like, you find these spots, and what we call them in the industry is spot on spots, and having those key spot on spots, that one crevice on one rock pile, or having that hump that has a boulder on it or something, and knowing those spots. And the only way you find those is by fishing, not by, like, a lot of people, they're so taken away by forward facing sonar now. Like, and it's proven itself. Like, guys that say, oh, we can't compete, we can't do this because of forward facing sonar. I mean, that is the biggest BS I've ever heard. Yeah. Does it increase your odds? 100%. Would I ever show up to a tournament without mine? Not a chance. But at the same hand, you look at the Bassmaster Classic this year. Those guys couldn't see their fish they couldn't see their fish when they're fishing. They fish off instinct. So having that natural ability to be able to fish and having the ability to know and read your water, that's your biggest tool out there. And then adding all of that under one umbrella, I mean, it's gonna make you more productive and more successful on the water. But, and then touching on that, I'd like to mention, I had a few people that were reach out about forward facing sonar. I mean, we're very good at using it. I'm able to see fish different by playing with it and seeing different things. Like, if anyone's listening that is like got a live scope or got an active target or a Mega Live, a Humminbird Mega Live, any of these forward facing devices, the best way to get good at them and best way to get competitive with them is not fishing with them. Go around, drive around, look at fish, drive around that point, look at fish over here, see them, pay attention to what they look like, what they're relating to. That's going to get you really in the game. And for me, when I found out like how to really use mine, I went out to Lake Superior, which is a clear body of water, and I just drove around. I wasn't even looking for fish. I'd see a rock, I'd scan around, I'd look around, I'd see a rock with my forward-facing sonar, and then I look up and I can physically see the rock. Now, looking at it, I was able to cast out to that rock, and when I couldn't see my jig falling on the sonar, I'd look out to physically see where that was, like where my jig and my placement was. So by not fishing fish with your forward-facing sonar is going to get you to be more accurate. And now you like, and another thing too is setting your setting your gain. They're setting, sorry, not your gain, but your focus point. So like having, I keep mine at like the chart on mine where I have it at 100 feet. So I'm 100 feet out all the time. So when I see a fish at 60 feet, I don't have to go down, see, oh, okay, this is at 14 feet out, 60 feet out, or 14 feet down, 60 feet out. I already know that I'm scanning around, and it's where I see it, I'm pitching at 60. Like it becomes muscle memory at that. So, and that's all due to practicing not fishing fish. If as crazy as it sounds, but it's combining the two together that make you, stand apart from someone else.
I have to say, you explained exactly what it was the first time I had a piece of electronic equipment on my boat. I think I spent more time just playing around with it, getting to know it than actually fishing. So I think that's some great advice that you offer, Nick. And when it comes to forward-facing sonar, I mean, as I said, it's a debate that's going to go on forever. I think Mercer said it best, as you mentioned and alluded to. Those bass anglers, a lot of them have been pitching frogs their whole life. So forward-facing sonar is great for smallmouth when you're in deep water structure, yada, yada, yada. But when you're in those shallows pitching spinner baits and frogs, forward-facing sonar has no effect and certainly doesn't help you in the ways that folks would suggest that don't know a lot about forward-facing sonar should. So keep that in mind. As I said, if you're going to go out and spend a whole whack of money, Nick's saying if you are planning on going the NOWT, it might be something you might want to invest in. But I have to go back. I think part of the novelty for me of the NOWT is seeing boats like your Sylvan still enter. I mean, there was one that was exactly as you described in the championship. You had pontoon, you had 2 pontoon boats, I think. You had a couple tinners, but that mystique, that novelty, and it builds character and provides character to the NOWT that you might not necessarily see on other tournament trails, but. Yeah, I love your approach. And as I said, there is nothing that you require in order to enter and compete. Whatever you bring to the table just makes you that much better of an angler. Would you agree, Nick?
Oh, absolutely. And you know what? If you're out there and you're struggling and you want to get you have questions, ask the anglers. Ask us. We're not going to steer you wrong. It's never going to happen. The guys were out there, like I've told in pretty much every live that I think we've done so far on the GFW page or on Canadian Fishing Network. Like I had guys that that helped me out in my first event. And through my first couple of seasons, like you had Denny Martin, you had Perry Calverson. Like these guys really, I looked up to them as anglers, and like these guys were the real deal. And they really they put me on fish. They give me as much as it wasn't like tournament winning secrets, it was more of a confidence thing. Like these guys put their arm around me and really talked to me like I was part of the gang, which was that the drive that I needed to get better, and being able to ask questions and what, I want to take what those guys did for me and double it. So that's why I'm doing stuff like this. Like the information we're giving out, this isn't fake information. This isn't something that I'm suggesting people try to gain myself an extra day of practice on the water. This is actual stuff that you can go out and you can win a tournament. I like I said, I lost 2 events last year by 1 position, and one of my close friends, Kit Porteous, I seen he commented here earlier. There was that. I don't even know if it was a split second where there was like I just lost a tournament, and then I looked up to realize that one of my really close friends have just won their first event. And, come down to that last boat, which was us to weigh in, to find out that, we were the last boat to weigh in. It was that the hype train come down, and, he won against me. I'm standing on the stage. It happened twice this year. I standing on the stage. I was the first one to be able to give those guys hugs. Like, it's you lose to your friends. It's something special. And I mean, like I say, if anyone thinks they can come out and beat me at my own game by me giving the information out, I hope that happens. I really genuinely do. I really hope that there's an angler that comes out of this and say, hey, that those techniques you mentioned on this live help me out. And there'll be nothing that makes me more proud as an angler and a tournament angler. I don't need to win every tournament. I don't need to have that be that elite level angler every time I'm on the water. It's having the ability, like I've made a name for myself already. I think in the industry, and I mean, for me, the biggest thing isn't winning tournaments. My biggest thing, like yourself with the kids events and stuff like that, is to help that next generation go. And you know what? In turn, you're going to win tournaments. You're going to be at the top of your game. It's all going to be, it all works hand in hand. So, I mean, that's what makes the fishing tournaments in this industry so special.
It is so true. And you'll see by this comment how special it is. Bill Landry, I'm glad you had a good go of it. I can't say the same, sadly. I met a pile of guys that wouldn't give you the time of day. They were good to talk to, us kids. At the end of the day, the one takeaway I have, and it's the follow-up question to what you just mentioned, it feels like a family when you're up there at the NOWT. You guys are all buds. You're all pals. Yes, there's lots of characters, lots of egos, lots of personalities that you got to deal with. But at the end of the day, especially, and I don't know if it was just the championship, but there's a brotherhood, a sisterhood, whatever you want to call it. It is a sense of family. And that trail is just the movement, the migration of that family from event to event. It's really something. If you haven't witnessed it, I highly recommend you coming out and seeing it firsthand, because it is truly remarkable.
Absolutely. And touching base on Bill's comment there, like, you've never fished the NOWT, so give us a try. And you will feel that same thing. You will come out to one of our events. They're great. We have them all over Northern Ontario. We have one in Sault Ste. Marie. We have check us out. Check out the NOWT. And you know what? I can guarantee that that bad run-in that you had won't happen. You see any one of us in these green jerseys, these GFW jerseys, I can promise, I can't speak on behalf of everyone, but I know my team, the GFW NXS team, they're more than happy to help anyone. And that pretty much goes for everyone. Like, if someone reaches out to any of the tour level guys, like where we travel from tournament to tournament, I mean, I can't think of anyone offhand that wouldn't help someone that's new into the industry out. That's and I mean, I hope I never have to hear any of those bad stories coming from our events. And I mean, sure, there might be a couple of people that don't help you, but there's more people that will, that won't.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Corey, well said, Nick. I couldn't agree more. On that topic, based on Nick Porteous, and I think that was a great segue. Is there anybody this year that has either been a part of the tour for the trail for a while, someone that has always been close but just not quite there, but in terms of positivity, is much like yourself? You're patting the back of your competitors, those who win, those who are successful. Is there a team, an individual that you'd really like to see win this year?
I mean, it's like anyone. I hope everyone gets their chance to be up on that stage. I mean, obviously, I'm there. Not like my overall goal showing up to every event isn't to have someone beat me. I mean, I'm going to do absolutely everything in my power to make sure someone doesn't beat me. And I mean, that's that competition side of me that I won't lose. And that's why I started doing it, because, I am competitive. I love going out and I love winning. Someone that says they don't like winning, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if that's the case, because there's nothing better. But at the same hand, having someone be able to beat you, that's cool too. Like, I like both sides of it, but I mean, So I'll do everything in my power not to let the tournaments, the champions, do it again. You got Team Abitibi that showed up to the Quebec team that showed up to the circuit this year that like put a run on absolutely everyone this year. Those guys are a force to be reckoned with. And you know what? I hope I beat them, but I'll be sure happy if they win. You know, it's that sort of thing. But you got like Jesse and Francis, like those guys are. You know, Jesse and Francis total point leaders. They were top 10 for every single event, all 7 events. Just think of that, top 10 in every event. That's near a perfect season. You know, like so you got guys like that, and then you got the legends that you know haven't necessarily fallen, but they're you know there's been a couple of guys that haven't been as known as they were. But I mean, at any moment those guys can win a tournament. There's so many great anglers now, and just having you know that it could be anyone's tournament. That's the biggest thing about it. It can flat out be anyone's tournament, anyone's event. I think we're going to see something really special at championship. I'll guarantee that record that Steve and Kevin broke last year will be broken in this one.
Whoa. Really? You think? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm confident that record's not going to be held for much longer than this event. But I mean, we'll see. It's just out of all the events that we've fished, I think biggest average of big fish come from Magpie. That is a big fish factory. It is going to be absolutely insane, Scottie. For instance, the champions this year, Jason and Rob LaFramboise won the Duberville tournament last year, and then now the championships there. I'm partnering with Jason in the event, and Steve and Kevin said that they would have had that tournament won. They had a 10-pounder that ran down into the wood and tangled them up, and they broke them off. So they would have had that tournament won. So think about that. That's another 40+ pound bag. And then Jesse and Francis were right there as well. Like it's gonna be special. Guys are, you know, you put everything. It's like Stanley Cup hockey, right? Like you're not you put in 100% in the season, and you play as hard as you can. But when it comes around the Stanley Cup Finals, you find that extra 15% that you push into it, right? It's and this is the champ. This is our Stanley Cup. It's I said that last week too. I mean, you got the Bassmaster Classics, the Super Bowl of fishing. Well, this is the Stanley Cup of fishing. We're the biggest tournament circuit in Canada. So it's you know, to be able to hoist that trophy and have that. Yeah, I'm excited, man, to say the least. I don't know how it's going to be won. I hope it's going to be won on Artificial's Pitch and Shoreline, but and by me, but we'll see. It's
like Stanley Cup hockey. We wish it would last forever, but it doesn't. It comes to an end, and we have to make sure that we soak it all in as we do this segment. It is an hour. We wanted to keep it to an hour to keep you folks engaged. If there are questions that perhaps you wanted to ask, there's some techniques, maybe some tips that you're still looking for. As Nick has mentioned, please reach out to Nick Huckson. Go on Messenger, go on Facebook. Look this man up. As I said, you'll see a lot of pictures. You're going to have to go through a lot of pictures of him holding big fish. But
yeah, check out my Instagram handle as well. It's Huckson Outdoors. Feel free to reach out to me on social media. I'm going to be on the road this weekend, so just bear with me a little bit. I'm on my way to Terrace Bay to do their grand opening to fishing sale. But yeah, just send me a message. I'm happy to help out if there's anything I can. I mean, just feel free to reach out. It's that's what this is all about.
Bill's asking if it's okay to send you a friend request. I'll vouch for Bill. He's a solid, and I'll tell you, when it comes to big fish, he knows a thing or two. So you two you're gonna have lots to talk about.
Heck yeah, absolutely, man.
He lives in Saskatchewan, so you probably won't see him on the trail until maybe next year. Just kidding.
Absolutely. We'll have them open. We'll have open arms. We got guys from Quebec, so I mean, it's not that big of a deal to have someone from out of province. And
that's awesome. Well, Nick, listen, thanks for spending the hour with us, and we look forward. Are we going to be able to do a segment next week?
Yeah, heck yeah, we will. I think this is going to be a weekly thing. We'll try and figure out who we're going to get on next. I think possibly getting on. I think it'd be cool to get on some of the tournament organizers. That would be awesome to see what their point of view is on what it's like
Absolutely. I'd
from
love to
behind
get
the scenes.
I'd love to get the girls in here that that I met in the teepee that do all the weighing, of course, all the releasing, the care that goes in. The Turcottes, that family is so focused on making sure that all these fish are returned to the body of water that they're taken from. I was taken back, as I said, for a tournament that caught as many fish as you did. To see a couple fish not get returned was truly incredible. There's a lot of care that goes into it, a lot of great handling, great knowledge too. You can tell that this isn't run by a bunch of haphazard individuals. Like, everybody knows a thing or two about handling fish, how to bring fish back. It's really cool. A lot of great efforts go into that. Nick, as always, dude, it's always a pleasure to speak to you, and I look forward to seeing you next week, man.
Absolutely, buddy. Look forward to it.
For everybody who joined us tonight, we really appreciate you spending some time with us. We're going to share a lot more about the NOWT as we want to grow it. We want to bring it to you. We want to expose it, promote the heck out of it, pump the tires, and do what the NOWT has done for a lot of anglers like Nick, like Jason Doyen, and of course the champions last year. They've given them a platform through which they can enjoy, entertain themselves, and win some really cool prizes.
And one other thing too, again, I mentioned this last week. One other thing is thank you to all the volunteers, all the organizers, everyone that is the backbone that is not seen. We see you. We know. We appreciate everything that you do to make us be able to do what we can. You guys are the true heroes behind the tournament scene. That is not. You guys don't have enough recognition, and I want to make sure that every week we mention everyone again, because the reason we're able to do this is because the volunteers and the tournament organizers. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts, from speaking on behalf of all of the anglers. You guys rock.
Couldn't have said it better myself, buddy. You have yourself a great week and drive safe.
You too, buddy. Cheers.
Yeah, all the best. This has been an NOWT